We're coming to our Father's Memorial Service. I'm Brian, and this is my brother Terry, and of course we're Roy and Sandy's sons.
Yeah, we're singing those songs. I was just I've been to so many services in this building. And for a moment there, you just think you're in service again. And the dad's here, you know. It's hard. So, we're trying to sum up our 80 years of my dad's life, 15 and 20 minutes, right? That's just not reasonable. So we thought, what are the things that are kind of the most outstanding that we really remember our father for, and some characters. And Brian and I were talking about, we have a lot of stories to pick from, and stories to tell. And the things that really stood out for us were integrity, work ethic, and just generosity. So with that in mind, we thought we'd give you a little story from when we were little kids and kind of go from there.
When I was 18, I thought I knew everything, and I thought my dad was, the dumbest guy in the world.
You did.
Yeah. However, it was amazing how much my dad learned by the time I turned 20. He got a lot smarter. And, but I'm jumping a little bit ahead. So let's go back and let's start at the beginning. Let's tell a few stories about our dad. Our dad was always proud of working at Caltrans, and at a very early age, he often brought us down to the maintenance yards and let us climb all over vehicles, and it was just like big, huge Tonka toys for little kids to play on. You remember doing that?
Yeah, and so in San Jose, that was where he started. We did several moves with Caltrans through time, but there was always a maintenance station, which is just heaven for little boys, right? And little girls too, I'm sure. And we would go out and play in the trucks and everything, and I felt like we were just roaming free. I'm sure that Dad's eye was on us, maybe not as much as Mom wanted, but probably a lot. And we didn't fall in any oil change pits. But I remember at the end, and I was in kindergarten in San Jose, but I remember that we'd go into this big cleanup room, and they had this big circular sink where the water would come out. The guys would wash their hands after hard day working, and Dad would come up and go, "Okay, it's time to get cleaned up," and he would go on, and the water would come on. And then we could watch and he'd say, "Go off," and the water would go off. What's that? And he would do it over and over.
And we tried to say it too. It wouldn't work for us. We're saying, "Go on."
It's like,
I think Dad was saying, maybe you say it in a higher voice or something like that.
That's right. Anyway, there was a good switch, of course, because the guys increasing it. But he was just fun, right? I mean, he always had fun with us.
So after San Jose, we moved to Kingvale, and that was without a doubt one of the best and funnest times of our whole life.
Yeah.
We have a lot of memories from there. Dad got promoted to foreman of Caltrans, and he was in charge of the Kingvale maintenance station, and many of you might know it, going over Donner Pass. It's that huge building with all the orange trucks in it. It's just about 2 miles over before you get to the top of the pass. And our dad was the youngest guy to ever be in charge of that facility at the time, which was really amazing for such a young guy to be there.
Yeah, it was. That maintenance station was huge. I'd say it was maybe a mile long. I don't know if it's quite that big, but it's huge. It's one of the biggest ones in California. And the whole point for all this expenditure is to keep the road open. And Interstate 80 across the pass, and it would snow. I remember one storm 6 feet in one night, and he would keep that road open, like only Roy can. So he was the boss. So we got to kind of have the run of the place, right? Nobody really questioned anything. We would kind of do a bunch of crazy stuff. Sorry. Okay. So once everybody was gone, 5 o'clock, we would go over there and play in the park and everything. You talking about bikes, right?
Yeah. So Anyway, the maintenance station was huge. It was just, I mean, it was just this huge building with like 40 vehicles in it, snow blowers and graders, and you know, it was all open. We'd go in there anytime we wanted to, play on stuff. And so we really had a lot of fun, and it was just a giant paved parking lot too, so we really had a lot of fun there. So we're teaching Terry, Terry's got his first bike, so I know how to ride a bike, but Mom and Dad took us down to Sacramento, and they bought us both bikes, Schwinn Stingrays, I remember distinctly, banana seat, you know, just what kids want. So Terry had a green one, and I had a blue one. And so we're teaching him, you know, no training wheels or anything like that, right? So we're going over to the maintenance station, Terry's on the bike, and Dad's pushing him by the he's got a bar on the back, but he's not letting go of him or anything like that, right? Terry's, you know, wobbling, he's learning, you know, he's getting it down. So he feels like he's, you know, ready to make a trip on his own. So about halfway down the maintenance station, there's a fuel house, right? A fuel station where they fuel up all the trucks. And so Dad said, you know, just drive down there and drive around that fuel station and, you know, just come back and, you know. So he says, but, you know, go wide around it because there's a bunch of 55-gallon drums on the other side of it. You just can't see them from here, but, you know, just make sure you go around it. So, you know, we watched Terry go down, and he's pretty far away. Depth perception is pretty difficult. And he makes the turn, and the next thing we hear is, you know, he hit those drums, right? He's so far away, we're not even like walking down there. We're just like waiting to see if he's going to surface. And sure enough, you know, here he comes, and he's riding his bike back, you know.
And I got back, I'm like, where's Brad? I want to race.
Yeah, exactly. He wants to go.
And so one time they had, you know, they had a fire hydrant there, and it was a little bit leaky.
It was like big fire hoses were all over them.
Yeah. And there was a big cinder house full of these volcanic cinders, just, you know, thousands of square yards of the stuff they put out on the freeway for traction and whatnot. Well, to us, that's material to make a dam because we have a little lake here. So we got shovels, probably the hardest he and I ever worked with shovels in our lives. And we'd start building this dam, and then there wasn't enough water, so Brian would crank the fire hose up. I'm sure it was you guys. And, you know, pretty soon we had a couple of acre feet. And we were using
the shovel for hours. Dad wasn't around.
Never seen us work like that. And it was, you know, I mean, the dam walls were getting pretty high. You know, and it kind of became an issue. And so,
we had to work as fast as we can with the shovels because it's fanning out so fast.
Yeah, so whenever he came, I don't remember, but, you know, he was so cool. He didn't get mad. He didn't, like, you know.
He's just like a couple of boys playing with water and doing.
Yeah, hey, who doesn't? And I think they had to get some equipment to clear that out.
There's a lot of dirt over there.
Yeah, there's an environmental impact report on that. And then I remember what he used to take this loader and get wood down at the end of the, where we chopped the wood and kept it all the time and bring it up to the house, which was a state house as part of this main station. And I was on my bike riding around, and this loader was coming, and I was like, da, 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 you know, and it was Dad in the loader, and I thought, well, you know, he doesn't see me, he's just going to run over me. It's this big thing coming with wood in the bucket, and I rode my bike so hard. I was riding up to the house, and Mom's like, she can see me outside the kitchen window. She's like, stop. And then she said I just hit the steps like full power. It just flew because I thought he was Jason. And I'll tell you know, nobody got mad. He fixed the bike. It's cool. Sorry.
I remember, you know, there was another house right in front of our house, and that was my dad's leading man. It was Jason and Dorothy, and they were really nice to us. And they had a dog. It was a beautiful dog. It was a Norwegian elk hound. His name was Kino because they won the money for it playing Kino in Reno, so they named the dog Kino. And Terry and I, we used to play with Kino all the time. It was so much fun. The dog was just so much fun, and of course, he loved having kids to play with.
It's a cute dog. Yeah.
So I remember one day we were getting ready to have a barbecue outside, and so, you know, Dad had the barbecue going, and we were playing in the house, and Mom's doing something in the kitchen, and he took the meat out there, and then he needed to come back in and get something out of the house, and he came back out to throw the steaks on, and then he called for us. He said, boys, come outside. And so we came out there, and he's like, you know, which one of you boys likes Kino the best? And of course, I do, we do, I do. We're both clamoring for it, you know. And I think finally, you know, I was the older one. I finally went out. It's like, no, Dad, I like him the best. And he said, well, Kino just ate your steak.
That's classic Dad.
So I think we all got steak that night. That was his dad.
There's a lesson there. Know what you're signing up for.
So, you know, one of the other things he did, he bought a snowmobile. And oh my God, we had so much fun with that thing. It was unbelievable. He bought a really nice one. It was very, very powerful. And all three of us, our whole family wrote it. You know, Mom didn't write it as much. She wrote more with Dad, but he would let us take it. I mean, we're just little. I mean, we went to a little two-room
I was
school.
first through third grade there. So.
And I was third through sixth grade. So, you know, he'd let us write, you know, first, a lot of times he'd go out and he'd make a trail for us out in the forest. You know, we just literally just drive it out of our front door and, you know, just go. And so he'd make a trail for us when we were younger in the beginning and, you know, that we could ride on. And we had a good time. And I remember that there was a point in time when some of the fathers would all meet at Donner Ski Ranch because they wanted to ride their snowmobiles at night, right? And so several of them, there was only 5 sixth grade boys in my whole class and 1 girl, so it's only 6 of us. And so the dads would take, you know, their older boys, the 6th grade boys up there. So we went up there, and while, you know, we were playing inside the ski lodge and everything, but then when those guys had dinner, then we got to go out and ride, right? You know? So we rode way far over top of a mountain, and we're all the way on the other side of the Boreal Ridge Ski Resort, right, at night. And, you know, they're trying to groom the slopes, and we're out just tearing everything up with snowmobiles, just 6th graders out there, right? They're chasing us. And we drove back home, and, you know, anyway, gave our dads the snowmobiles, and then they drove off on their own.
He was generous, right? He didn't, you know, he's like, no big deal. They just need to go out and have fun. And that was his favorite thing, was that snowmobile, and he just let us ride it.
We really had a lot of fun on the snowmobile. So, unfortunately, it's time to leave Kingvale. And once again, Dad's promoted, and now he's the superintendent in Redding, California. And he lived here on two times, so this was the first time. And, you know, my dad, he had a strong work ethic, as we've talked about. And he really wanted to instill that in us. And so by this time, I was in 7th grade. And, you know, he felt that it was time that, you know, I had a job. And so he helped me start my own lawn mowing business, right? So I remember, you know, he's providing the equipment and the gas and everything for it. And I remember going door to door, and I was getting business. And I remember one of my first clients lived right behind us, Mrs. Radcliffe. I don't know why I remember her name. And I mowed her front lawn and her back lawn and edged it for $2 a week. And she was even grouchy about that, you know. But I did more damage to that lawnmower than you could possibly imagine. I remember one time I had a sprinkler head. It was metal, and it just blew a hole right in the deck of my dad's Toro lawnmower. And I bring it back, and, you know, he builds a little piece of metal and puts some screws and holds it back down, right? He wasn't mad at me at all.
Fix anything.
Again, I'm sure that we're losing way more money than what I was making, but again, that just is, you know, our father wanting to teach me, you know, a work ethic.
Generous.
And, you know, we touched on, you know, that there was integrity, work ethic, and generosity. And our dad had a lot of integrity, and he led by example. He didn't just tell us what to do. And I remember one time after church, we went to McDonald's. That was a very common thing for us to do, to go have some lunch. And we came outside, and my dad was outside, and he was counting his change, and he was looking at his receipt. And they had given him too much money back. And when I'm saying too much money, I'm just talking about, it was change, right? It wasn't like $1. And, you know, my dad went back and stood in line. He didn't just go right to the front, say, give me too much change. He stood in line the whole time until he got up to the front, explained to them the situation, and gave him money back. When you're a young boy and you see your dad do things like that, right? You know, it has
Shows his integrity.
yeah,
Wow.
it has an effect on you.
He's not doing that because you're watching. He's just doing it just because he's right. That's who he is.
So, you know, that's one of those things you remember about your dad that had a big impact on you. So I do remember. You remember when we went up to see our Bible camp? You know, he was running the kitchen, you know, and he's like military. It's like, you know, 0800, you know, mop the floors, you know, 0930.
So Brian and I were laughing about this. He goes, "You remember Dad like running that whole KP thing, the kitchen there?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I remember. I love KP. I don't know why. Because during assembly line and do that whole thing." And we were talking, and we were like, if you looked at the camp's like roster of people that were assigned stuff, like, is that even a thing, or did he just walk in and take control like he always does? We're not sure that's even a position, right? I think
he just got tired of being in the trailer where Mom and Pat were doing crafts, and
Yeah.
he just saw me and took over.
Yeah. Anyway, so I think Another time, I remember being up here and riding the first time, we took that snowmobile, which he loved, and we met last, and then we were jumping.
And I think it just goes to show how much he loved that snowmobile, right? We left the middle of a snow-covered forest and came to Reading where it's 115 degrees. We're the only kids on the block that have a snowmobile parked in their garage.
Just waiting, just there.
Just in case.
And one day it did snow, and he took it out and he drove around, and everybody's like, what is that?
It was right over by Westwood Manor,
Yeah.
and we just drove the kids and our neighbor were amazed, right?
We drove it up the street.
And we were out riding around here.
He was like on one track.
Yeah, he tilted it sideways, and people were pulling over just to watch him, because they'd never seen anybody do it.
So we took this up to Lassen, and we were going around the backside of these trees and coming in. There was a stump that was covered in snow, and he and Brian were jumping over the snow.
It was like a log.
A little log. Well, Brian said, "Hey, Terry, this is gonna do this. You really gotta gun it, because you don't want to be going too slow over that log."
I don't think I said that.
Now, again, this is, 4th or 5th grade. We'll give it the benefit of the doubt. Say 5th grade, a 500-pound snowmobile. What could go wrong? So I floored it, right, coming around the backside of his pass, and it was like Brian and Dad were like, "Woo!" Just watching them fly through the air. And of course, I was just froze at the switch, just completely petrified and full throttle. And then so when I hit, it was like, "Wah!" It just took off like a rocket. And Dad's yelling like, "Let go, let go, let go!" And it almost went into the cars, and I hit some post, like
I think it was a metal
metal marker or something, and trashed the whole front of it and everything. And
he turned at the very last second.
yeah, and all he cared about was I okay? Are you all right? Probably because your mom would kill him if anything happened. But he never got mad, and that was one of his prized things. But nothing was prized like his children were the same. So,
And needless to say, that was into our snowbelly for the day.
yeah, so
I remember another time, we talked about, his generosity, and I went to Live Oak School here for 7th and 8th grade, and I wanted to be on the track team, and we had a track, but it was terrible. It had, holes, potholes in it. It was just a dirt track and everything. And so my dad, he came over and got a grader from Caltrans and brought the grader over, and he graded that whole track. And I don't know if that was exactly approved by his superiors, but I guess he was the superior.
Intra-district cooperation.
Yeah, exactly.
Approved by Roy.
Exactly. Again, he saw need, and that's the kind of guy he was.
So he got promoted again. We moved to Merced. He was a senior superintendent at Caltrans, and one of the most amazing times I had with my dad, I think I was 7th, 8th, and 9th grade there, if I remember right. No, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th maybe. And we built a house, and it wasn't just a regular house; it was a Roy house, so it had to be just amazing. And he literally built this house himself, him and our family, and he was determined. And talk about work ethic.
We worked it every day.
Every day he would get home from his day job, and then we would go out there as a family and work on this thing. And he refused to quit. And every weekend we were out there. And I remember everything from digging the well, putting the trees in, and Brian and I taking the pickup around and watering the trees out of the back of the pickup. I learned everything you would ever want to know about construction. The only things he didn't do himself, or friends did, or his dad came and helped them frame that place, because his dad was a construction genius as well, built Berryessa Dam and all kinds of stuff, was the roof. We had a guy come roof it, and I think they had a guy do the bricks. He could have done the bricks, but he just didn't. And he had someone do the electrical. And I think apart from that, he did everything else. And us as kids got to experience that entire thing.
There was 2 days we took off. One was Mother's Day, and I don't remember the other day. It was some kind of a holiday.
And it was amazing. At the end, it was beautiful. It was a place we were so proud to live.
That house was huge. What we thought was huge. I think now it was like 2,600 square feet to us. It just seemed like it was massive at the time. And it was way off the road. I remember we had a really, really long driveway. And it was just wide enough for 2 vehicles, right? Not very much space in there. And there were several incidents on that driveway over the course of time. I remember one Sunday, it was after church, and I was only like 18. I just only had a car.
And you knew everything.
And I knew everything. And I had a car for a little while. And so, of course, 18, every time you got in, you're squealing the tire, just...
Not everyone.
Just because you can. Yeah. So, I'm backing on the driveway, getting ready to go somewhere, right? And of course, I sideswiped my dad's state cards. He's got an AMC Matador from the state of California, right? I remember it distinctly. And I like slammed into that. And so I get out, and I mean, it's creased from the front bumper all the way to the back bumper, right? And I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh my God, my dad's gonna kill me. So I remember going into our garage, and I hung out in the garage for like 15 minutes, right? Because I'm trying to figure out, oh my God, what am I gonna say to him? And so finally I get up enough courage, right? And we had this big long hallway from our garage down. I can't even see my dad, right? So I open the door, and I'm like, Dad? And the next thing he says, we're not even looking at each other yet. The next thing he says is, I don't care what happens, son. I just want that vehicle fixed by Monday morning, right? And my response was, Dad, the doors won't even open, And I don't remember, all of a sudden, 10 days later, my dad had another state vehicle, and I never paid any money, but I'm sure some money had to change hands somewhere. Yeah. Speaking of that driveway, I remember something. You have moments in your life with your dad that they may seem unimportant, but they are important. And so, I was a typical teenager. I didn't have any money, right? And we were. I needed my wheel bearings repacked on my car. So my dad's teaching me how to repack the wheel bearings. Right? I had no idea how to do it. Dads. They're teaching you everything, right? It's just. I can't believe that he knows how to do all this stuff. So when it comes time to putting the tire back on, right, remember, I'm just a young guy. I mean, I'm 17, 18, and when it comes to time to put the tire back on, I'm just like, going in a circle, 1, 2, 3, 4, boom, and Dad's like, no, you got to go here, you got to go here, you got to go here, you alternate back and forth. And he's teaching me the reason why, because, as almost all of us know, you don't tighten anything up like that, right? You make sure it's all square. And I know that story seems so innocuous, but every single time that I'm tightening up anything, from making a chair to I just made a bed frame the other day, I'm always tightening it like that. And I always think back to my dad, taught me how to tighten something up so that, it wouldn't be out of square and you wouldn't have to do it. And so that was a big moment.
Are we in Reading second time?
Yeah. So once again, Dad gets promoted, and he moves the family back to Reading, or most of the family anyway, because I stayed in Merced. I was 18. I could make my own decisions. I was already living out on my own. And like I said, I thought I was much smarter than him anyway, right? So I was ready to roll. I was ready to take the world by the tail. So I was a little scared having my family move so far away from me, because I'd only been on my own for 6 or 7 months, and when I say on my own, I was still coming over to Mom's house all the time, raiding the kitchen, getting canned goods and stuff like that, right? She was feeding me. But it turned out fine, and 4 years later, I met my beautiful wife, Donna, and that was almost 35 years ago.
So now we're on I lost count, 4th or 5th move, kids, and 5 moves. Yeah, we turned out okay. For those of you who went through the torture of moving to Sonoma County, I know it's rough. And believe it or not, we had no passports either at this time. So we moved back to Reading, and behind our house, my dad built this wood shop because he truly loved, building things. And I really spent a lot of time with him out there, and I'll just never forget those days. And he taught me to build a whole bunch of stuff. Of course, I made really cool rock and roll signs like Def Leppard.
Kiss.
No, I didn't make Kiss. I had Def Leppard. And then, really important stuff when you're in high school. And then later, when we had a family and everything, we built some really nice stuff out there. A lot of stuff we still have in our home. And my dad had me build that stuff, and I'll have it forever.
Do you remember, Mom and Dad would go to a store, and Mom would see like a piece of furniture that she liked, and Dad would he might even sketch it. So sometimes he just took a tape measure down and started measuring stuff.
Yeah.
Or he'd just sketch it out and then he'd come home.
They're coming.
And he'd just build. Yeah, exactly. And, you know, can I help you with that, sir? It's like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
And then
Photographic memory, I'm good.
and he'd just build it. He'd just
Yeah.
come back and build.
Yeah.
He did that with a hutch that Mom has, and then he built one for me and Donna.
Yeah, you still have it.
I still have it. So that was a long time ago.
Anyway, he really took pride in what he was doing. And I learned a lot out there with my dad in that wood shop, you know, not just about building furniture, of course, but just being with him. And it's really cool.
You know, our dad, you know, Bob Marshall indicated, our dad always wanted to help other people. And, you know, this comes back to, again, we're talking about the 3 points of his work ethic and his generosity. You know, he helped so many people. I'm sure that he's helped some of the people in this room. He built shelves. He built furniture for people. He'd help them come over and pour their patios. He'd make a patio cover. He'd build a fence. He'd help you remodel. He never charged you, right? He just wanted to be there. He just wanted to be running the job, and he just wanted to help some people. So, you know, and that wasn't just at the end of his life. He did that his entire life, his entire life. All he did was he was always there to help somebody out.
Yeah, always.
So, you know, we talked a little bit about building this church. I think, you know, Bob touched on it. And, you know, it's kind of, you know, it's so fitting that our dad's memorial service is in a building, you know, that he had such a major part in playing in building.
Yeah.
So, you know, now, you know, as I'm older, you know, I thought everyone had the childhood that I had. You know, loving parents that, you know, constantly instilled confidence in us. You know, they were excellent role models. It wasn't until I was in my early 20s that I realized that not everyone had the same family that I had. You know, my mom and dad told us we were smart and we could do anything. And, you know, when your parents tell you that every single day of your whole life, you go out in the world, you have confidence. We have tremendous confidence in ourselves.
You kids are smart. You can do anything.
So, as I became older, and I saw, you know, I met other people, and I saw what their lives were like, and their parents were divorced or drinking or drugs, or just it wasn't a good family environment. So, you know, I've had a lot of successes in my life, and so I would tell my mom and dad that every success that I had was because of them. I felt like if I had failure, it would have been all on me, right? But if I hadn't made it, it would have been my fault. Because of the upbringing that I had just a strong foundation. I had good work ethic. I had integrity.
Dad, you know, really had a tough childhood. He really did. And he made sure that there was nothing like that.
You know, he could make or fix anything. I remember being young, and I remember our washing machine was broken, right? And, you know, so Dad's taking the washing machine apart, and I'm saying to him, you know, Dad, are you sure you should be doing that? You know, there's a lot of parts that you don't even know what you're doing. You know? And he's like, he goes, I'll fix it. So, you know, he did. I remember him laying parts out in all the little bowls and kind of roughly knew back how they all went in. There might have been a few left over when he was done, but it's still fired up.
That'd be me, yeah.
But, you know, we watched him do that on dozens of things, from cars to home repairs to everything. And he instilled that confidence in Terry and I. And during our conversation, we were talking about it. Just the other day, Donna brought home some candles. They were battery operated with a wireless thing. And there was like 8 of them, and one of them didn't work. And Jordy's first thing was, I bet Dad can fix it, right? And, you know, because he's seen me do it so many times, just like your kids have seen you do it so many times, because we saw our dad do it so many times.
Maybe less with me, a little bit. Okay. So, you know, he was inquisitive. He always wanted to figure out how things worked. I remember I'll never forget this. I wanted, when I was a kid, I guess it was seventh grade or something like that, I wanted one of those newfangled fancy calculators worse than anything in the world. And this was, you know, they were behind the glass cases, you know, like at Mervyn's, you know, they were like expensive. I don't know how much they were, but they were a lot of money. And I remember my mom and dad got me a Texas Instruments scientific calculator. It was the coolest thing in the world. And so Dad would sit around and give me these problems, and we would just do this. Like, we'd be at the dinner table, and he'd be like, okay, we've got, a table or a tank that's this big, and there's these pipes coming out of it, and these pipes going in, and we got to sandblast the inside, and how much sand is it going to take?
I remember that.
Heaven. Right? And we didn't get cookies at the end either, kid. There's no cookies. So tough. But, he was just involved with us, right? He was just generous with his time. And we would just work out some just incredible stories and stuff like that. I'll never forget those times.
So we'd be out and we'd see some equipment someplace, right?
Yeah.
Old piece of equipment.
Yeah.
And we had no idea what it was, our family. And so we'd all just stand around it and, we'd try to figure out, what did it do? How did it work? Why was it here? Or, anything that we saw that was just out of the ordinary. Why did they do that? We just had to know. We had to understand.
He'd explain it all the time. I remember we used to drive up the Feather River Canyon and stuff where he was as a kid, and all those dams that are built, all that thing, the power lines and the flumes that come out of there, where the power stations are, and all the power. He would explain all of it, right? And sometimes I see today, and my children are riding in the car, and I'm like, get off your phone, look outside. Some cool stuff. So hopefully I can instill all that really cool stuff in you guys too. When Dad was a leader, and he was just kind of a natural leader. He didn't try to be. Whenever there's a group of people, he just kind of naturally became the leader. Sometimes maybe some of them were interested in him being the leader, but that just happened. And I, when he was younger, he was in the National Guard, and he would tell me stories when we got a little bit older about it. And he was a tank commander in the National Guard. So they would go out and do these live fire exercises. They were blowing stuff up with a tank. And I'm thinking, of course he's a tank commander. He's not going to be the guy that fills the gas and says, "What do I do next?" He's going to be out there like, hit that, take that out, that dies, right? Because that's just right. Am I right? Because that's just right. I remember when he was in Caltrans, there was just some incidents I remember. I'm sure there's just countless, like Clint was saying about building stuff at the camp. But there was a big spill up here on I-5. There's a chemical spill, dangerous, hazardous chemical spill. Dad doesn't go like, "Well, let's wait for the hazmat report on that." He's there, drives his car up there, gets right out on the scene, makes sure traffic's going around it. What chemicals we got? Who's got the sensor? What is this thing? Make sure it doesn't go in the river. That's just who the guy was. Okay, we're going to take all this, 2 feet of this material, we're going to put it over there. I want this loader, this grader, I want this stuff out here. I remember another time there was I think it was up on 299. I could be wrong, 299, 44, something like that. But there was a big accident, and a team was out there working on the road, one of his teams, and a truck or something had somehow lost its brakes or something and come down the hill and hit the work crew. And